What is the most international of all the world's great industries? It's shipping. Shipping accounts for the vast majority of physical trade in the world. It is an efficient, safe, and environmental means of transport. As a highly globalized industry, it depends on ships flying the flags of many different states, crewed by seafarers from all over the world, calling into ports of all maritime countries. But how do you ensure that the safety, environmental and social aspects are respected and that there is a level playing field setting minimum standards? Herefore, several international conventions have been established by the International Maritime Organization and the International Labour Organization, providing minimum standards in relation to safety, protection of the environment and working and living conditions for the crew ships have to adhere to. The responsibility for this lies primarily with the ship owner. In addition, the flag state, the country where the ship is registered, is responsible for regulating and ensuring compliance. It is crucial to have some rules. Unfortunately, these responsibilities are not taken equally seriously by every ship owner, flag state, or the organizations working on their behalf. Some ships do not comply with the minimum standards, and so these substandard ships pose a threat to the safety of the ship, the environment, and the ship's crew. How to overcome this? Port states have the right to inspect foreign ships in their ports, the so-called port state control. A solid control system is therefore required, and that is what the ParisMoU stands for. ParisMoU is short for Paris Memorandum of Understanding on Port State Control, a cooperative union involving 27 countries. This means, for example, that inspections are conducted in the same way at all ports. It is a harmonized system that encompasses the waters of Europe's coastal states and extends to the North Atlantic Basin, from North America to Europe, an enormous area. How did all this begin? Let's start by taking a step back in time. In 1978, several West European maritime authorities signed the Hague Memorandum based on the principles of port state control. This mainly concerned living and working conditions on board. But just as the memorandum was about to come into effect in March 1978, an oil tanker, the Amoco Cadiz, ran aground off the coast of Brittany in France. Ultimately, the ship split in three and sank, resulting in the largest oil spill of its kind to that date. This disaster caused a massive political and public outcry in Europe for stricter regulations to ensure the safety of shipping. 14 European countries subsequently signed a new memorandum on port state control at a ministerial conference in Paris, France, in January 1982. The Paris Memorandum of Understanding on Port State Control was launched on July 1, 1982. So how did it work? At first, it was agreed that each country would inspect 25% of the foreign ships visiting its ports, meaning that around 85 to 95% of all ships were inspected in the ParisMoU region annually. The system worked, but there was room for improvement. So a new system was developed that focused more on the quality of the inspections than the quantity. In this new system, the risk profile of the ship, based on generic and historical factors, determined which ships were inspected. This risk-based system was a game changer and was fully implemented in 2011 and still applies to this day. Each year, around 17,000 inspections take place. These are carried out by port state control officers. A ship is selected for inspection based on its risk profile. The higher the risk profile, the more often such an inspection will be performed. Ships that are considered a standard risk are checked once a year. Ships with a higher risk, twice a year. Ships deemed to pose a lower risk once every 2 years. Simply put, ships with a proven track record, backed by a reputable company and flag, are rewarded by being inspected less often. But how is the risk profile established? There are several parameters for this. Generic parameters focus on the type of ship and its age. The country where the ship is registered is also an indication. The vessel's flag state, as well as the performance of the company that manages the vessel. There are historical parameters too. Have any deficiencies or detentions been recorded in the last 3 years? These may affect the risk profile. Besides these, additional inspections may also be carried out. For example, if a ship had a collision or ran aground, was maneuvered in an unsafe manner, is reported to have cargo problems, or if a complaint is received regarding the work and living conditions on board. After each inspection, the Port State Control Officer compiles an inspection report, listing any deficiencies they may have found. If the deficiencies found are so serious that they are an unacceptable threat to the safety, the environment, or the ship's crew, the ship will be detained in order to assure that things are brought in order before the ship departs for its next voyage. Ships that have been detained more than twice may be temporarily or even permanently banned from all ports in the ParisMoU region. Does it work? Over the past 40 years, we have seen that the percentage of ships detained in the ParisMoU region has slowly but surely decreased, whereas in the first decades, sometimes more than 10% of visiting foreign ships were detained annually. That percentage has now fallen to approximately 3%. In 1994, building on the experiences from the ParisMoU, port states in the Asia-Pacific region established the Tokyo MoU, and further regional agreements followed. To date, almost all port states in the world are part of similar regional agreements. The maritime industry remains a complex industry with several challenges ahead. The complexity of regulations and advancing and new techniques requires strengthening of cooperation between the MOUs, the European Commission, and the European Maritime Safety Agency and other relevant partners. In this way, together we contribute to the safety of the whole shipping industry.